Fuel economy figures from gasoline and diesel Mercedes. What to expect. I had a great question from a subscriber 2 days ago. What to expect for fuel economy from different gasoline and different diesel Mercedes. And we're talking about real-world fuel economy here. So I figured this would be a helpful guide to people who are shopping for their next Mercedes. First of all, I wanted to cover some of the diesel engine models. I'm going to look at city and highway fuel economy based on real-world experience, rather than the numbers quoted by the EPA or by Mercedes Benz. So the first car we're going to look at is the 123 Turbo Diesel Series, the 300D Turbo specifically. 1981 to 84 123s with turbo diesel engines usually get between 21 and 27 miles per gallon, depending on how well everything is set up. Our friend Greg, after rebuilding his injectors, his turbocharger, running a slew of additives, was netting 26, 27 miles per gallon. My friend Bill Walsh, who is an 83 300 TD, regularly sees 24 to 26. And my 300D Turbo, I see something like 23 miles per gallon. Now, 85s are a little bit better. They sort of nudge upward with a little bit lower around town, like 21 around town, and 28 on the highway. And we're talking about real-world highway speeds, not 55 or 60 miles an hour. Now, 300 SDs tend to do a little bit better, believe it or not. I've noticed that 300 SDs tend to get somewhere between 21 and 27 average, but most of them seem to pull around 25 average if they're really in good running order. Unless you have an 85, then it seems to get 25 to 30. Now, when you look at non-turbo cars like the 240D, the 220D, the 300D non-turbo, the 240 I found, if you really drive it hard around town and stuff, you're lucky if you get 24 to 27 miles per gallon. I think that my friend Carlos is a really nice 240, is logged like 23 or 24. Some of the stick shift 240Ds, when driven properly, they can get close to 30, but most of the time you're at 27, 28 miles per gallon if everything's right and you're not pushing them too hard. My 220D was one of the most fuel-efficient vehicles I ever owned. That car gave me between 26 and 30 real miles per gallon, and if I drove it at 55, 60 miles an hour, I didn't vary the throttle too much, 30. My 115 240D was similar. That car would return 28 to 32 miles per gallon if I didn't drive it at like 75 or 80. So I thought that was pretty good, even with an automatic transmission. The later Mercedes, such as the 190D 2.2, 2.5, and 2.5 turbo, all of those cars got 29 to 35 miles per gallon, sometimes more. So they are super fuel efficient. The 300D 2.5 I find usually gets 29 to 33, so it's also very fuel efficient. The big S-Class diesels, the 350, the 300 SDL, get around 25, and the E300 diesel usually gets 28 to 35 miles per gallon. So those cars, if you're looking for fuel efficiency, they're definitely at the top of their charts. Now, we're going to do some discussion about gas Mercedes. I'm not going to hit every single gas Mercedes, but I'm going to try. So, most of the time, if you have a car like a 280 SL, 280 SE with the 6-cylinder M130 engine, you're probably going to see about 15, 16 miles per gallon if everything's set up right. Although I've seen 280 SLs that had to be adjusted to like 12 to 13 miles per gallon to run well. Not totally normal, but still. The next dilemma that I notice is that the fuel economy for these cars is also highly variable. So it seems to me like the M130s with carburetors usually get 14 miles per gallon, which is not great, but you know, it seems to be pretty consistent whether it's 14 city or 14 highway. That's about what they get. The 6.3 liter cars, not as bad as you think. A well-adjusted 6.3 will get somewhere between 11.5 and 13.5 miles per gallon. 280 SE 4.5 and 280 SEL 4.5. Mine always gave me 15 miles per gallon average with about 14 city, 16 highway. Not great, but not terrible. Now, if you move into some of the KE Jetronic cars, any V8 Mercedes from this era, whether it's a 450 or a 500, if they have the big engine or a 560 or whatever, you can expect 14 to 18 miles per gallon from these things, but usually it's in the 14 to 15 range. Some people with 560 SECs and SELs tend to get 17 or 18 miles per gallon. If you're real gentle, you might even get 16 city, 19 highway, 20 highway. The 380 SL and 420 SEL usually get anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per gallon, but again, they're not great around town. It's on the highway when you start to barely crack the 20 mile per gallon numbers. 300Es, 300TEs, also cars with the M110 engine are usually pretty fuel efficient. If they're fuel injected, they get about 18 to 23 miles per gallon. The carbureted M110 engine is usually a 15 mile per gallon car on average, but if you push them really hard, they dip down into the 12 mile per gallon range. The 400E usually gets about 28 miles per gallon on the highway, so this is a very fuel efficient car. And if you start looking at 500Es, you're looking at 17 because of the lower rear axle ratio, sometimes 18, sometimes 19, but usually around 17. If you're looking at an E320, you can almost expect 18 to 25 miles per gallon. Closer to the 25 mark, though, if all of your engine electronics are good. Now, I know there's some models that I probably left out, such as the 190E 2.3 and the 300 SE, but I'm almost embarrassed to say what those cars get. It's very rare to see a 190E 2.3 when driven at highway speeds that cracks the 20 mile per gallon mark. I found that the 190E 16 valve is the 2.3 16 valve is the most efficient of the breed. Those cars get up to 30 miles per gallon in European trim on the highway with a 5-speed, but most of the time you should expect 26, 27 miles per gallon. The 300 SE, again, will not impress you with its fuel economy. It's only slightly better than the V8 at 16 to 19 miles per gallon. So we're talking about an improvement of 1 to 1.5 miles per gallon, but the cars are simpler to work on. Anyway, if I left out any models, please let me know, but that's what you could expect for the fuel economy from most of the classic Mercedes we deal with. And in the meantime, take good care of your car and you'll get the best fuel economy out of it. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy, like, share, subscribe, comment, and to all of our Patreon supporters, thank you so much.